Hi everybody, welcome back to Business Analyst School. In today's video, I'll be answering the question, how do I identify my stakeholders correctly so that I'm able to direct my questions effectively? I will also be sharing a technique that business analysts can use to map your stakeholders. So when it comes to stakeholder management, stakeholder analysis is the first step that a business analyst must take in order to gain support from stakeholders, especially for requirements elicitation. So a stakeholder is someone who has some sort of impact or someone who is affected by a project or someone who affects a project, right? So you want to look at them according to their level of influence or their level of interest and their level of power so that you can effectively direct your management to them in the right way. So firstly, let's identify the types of stakeholders. There are two types of stakeholders, your internal stakeholders and your external stakeholders. Internal stakeholders can be employees, anybody that works within your organization, heads of departments, while your external stakeholders are those that are outside your organization but have some sort of impact or influence on the organization. For example, your clients, your suppliers, your customers. Right, so one tool that business analysts use for stakeholder analysis is the stakeholder matrix or stakeholder map, and it's also known as the power interest grid, and I'm going to share a screen to show you how this works. Okay, so this is the stakeholder matrix, how to prepare your stakeholder matrix, aka power interest grid. Like I mentioned, you want to identify your types of stakeholders, the internal and external stakeholders. Anyway, so you map your Y and X axis. And then firstly, before you continue on to map out your stakeholders, you want to first identify who the stakeholders are, who are the various people that impact your project, the sponsors, the managers, your project managers. You want to list them somewhere, their names and their roles, okay? And then you want to prioritize your stakeholders, really understand what are they responsible for, okay? So these are the questions you want to ask. Who are the people involved? Identifying your stakeholders. What are these people responsible for? That's by prioritizing. And then understand these stakeholders from the list that you've created. You want to understand what they care about in relation to your project, okay? Right. So mapping the matrix, you have the y-axis where you represent your high power and low power on your project, and then you have low interest and high interest on your project, okay? And then you split this into 4 sections. I've represented mine here in 4 boxes. And then you want to, from your list of stakeholders, you want to identify stakeholders that you should keep satisfied. Who are the stakeholders that you have to closely keep satisfied? On this, we have the stakeholders with high power and low interest. These are the types of stakeholders that you need to keep satisfied at every point of your project. And then you have stakeholders that you don't necessarily need to keep satisfied or manage. You just monitor them, keep them in mind. These are your low power and low interest stakeholders. And then you also want to identify the stakeholders that you have to keep informed. Stakeholders with high interest, they are very, very interested in the project, but they have low influence on that project, low power. They can't really make any decisions about things, but they're really interested. Whatever changes made will sort of have an impact on them. And then you have the very, very high interest and high power stakeholders. Stakeholders who are able to make decisions, who are able to influence the project, and who have very high interest on your project. So examples of these stakeholders that you can keep satisfied, and these aren't always the case, right? It really depends on the project. Okay, so this is just an example. Stakeholders to keep satisfied could be your clients, your sponsor. Sponsors are generally the people who raise the initial requirement, or who are sponsoring or paying for the project, right? They might also have high interest depending on the project. Okay, I've given an example here. Stakeholders to monitor, such as the admin, they're not necessarily interested in project or have much power. Stakeholders you can manage closely, who have really high power and interest, are usually those C-level stakeholders, like directors, head of department, your SME, the person, your subject matter expert, the person who really knows details of the project, definitely would have power and high interest. Project manager, BA as well, can be closely managed. And finally, those to keep informed, such as your vendors, your external stakeholders, right? As well as some internal stakeholders, some employees you might want to keep informed because they have high interest, users of the system, right? So here's an example here. I've represented the roles on here. I like to represent them in colors, right? So that you're able to really identify those stakeholders, those difficult stakeholders, right? And those cautious ones, the ones that you want to sort of be mindful of. And some stakeholders are resistant. I represent them in red. The difficult one that you might find difficult to get into a room for meetings, find difficult to communicate with. Supportive ones I represent in green. So this is just really an example of how the power interest grid looks like. Right, so I hope you've enjoyed that demo. If you would like to really know in full detail how to really identify your stakeholders and manage them on your power interest grid, I have an opportunity for you to join my membership program. If you'd like to get more information, please join the waiting list on the link in the description box, and you will get more information, have access to various business analysis information, templates, coaching, videos, detailed videos to also help you pass your business analysis training. Please do this for your career. Make that investment and apply yourself by joining my waiting list so that you don't miss out on this huge opportunity to have these various accesses. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed that content, and I hope that you're able to apply this business analysis technique. There are loads of techniques that business analysts can use to apply themselves and make their delivery of high quality, really. So this power interest grid is one of them, and there are many more. Look out for my videos, and if you would like to have more detailed information about the various tools and techniques, there are hundreds and hundreds of them that you can use in your business analysis career. Please join my waiting list so that you can have access to these various information on the business analysis career in general and in detail, much more detail than my YouTube videos. Yes, so that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed today's content. Please don't forget to share this content. You don't know who it might help, and continue to support. Thank you for everybody who's been supporting me so far since I started this YouTube journey. Do like, subscribe, share, and keep the support coming. And as always, I wish you peace, and I'll see you in my next one.